We're already seeing Amazon testing drone deliveries. We're already seeing Tesla, Huawei, and big companies announcing humanoid robots that they're ready to launch. Like we're seeing a lot of that. We are seeing flying taxis, air taxis, all of that coming through.
You want frequent delivery. You if you don't get your delivery in 10 minutes, you probably will lose your shit, right? That people are already doing that. Ashen, he posted that he got his PS5 in 20 minutes. And he's like, oh, this is happening in Dubai. Then Irfan kind of retweets it saying that, oh, check India, you're getting in 8 minutes.
Yeah, who's going to tell him?
India is far ahead of the rest because they have cracked the hyperlocal market. I look at more crypto Twitter and other stuff. So, yeah, traction numbers
So
you
Doc
can
is
say.
a degen.
Electric is giving them lot of advantages. Considering climate and climate change and all that as a positive impact, it's also giving immediate monetary and financial advantages.
Can we do it in Q1? Is it fine? They're like, Q1? No, it's very late. Let's start December.
Is this the first time you guys are showing this?
Yeah, the first
anywhere?
time.
Yeah.
First
Oh,
Guys,
crazy.
you've seen it here first.
Oh my god, that give me goosebumps. I think that's how we are going to just keep happening.
GM everyone, welcome to the Brainstorming podcast. I'm your co-host Ahan and I have with me Sumedha as well. Today we have a really cool bunch of people joining us. Mohan and Dr. Prakash from DeCharge. And today we're going to speak all about DeCharge, what is DePIN, and the future of energy, right? Like a lot of cool stuff. So I'm going to just pass it over to Mohan and Doc to quickly just introduce themselves and then we can dive right in.
Hi everyone, thanks Sahan and Sumedha for having us, and of course the entire Brainstorm team. So I am Mohan and I'm the co-founder and CEO of DeCharge. We are building the decentralized future for energy.
Amazing.
This is Dr. Prakash. Short intro. Used to be a medical doctor. Then wanted to be in tech, so quit my practice then. Then I was into medical engineering. Then Bangalore startup ecosystem. And fast forward to 2020, I got into crypto. And 2021 onwards is when I got into Solana ecosystem, starting with super teams in particular. So yeah, that's the short intro. I think working full time in crypto in the last 2 years almost feels like a 5-year episode. But yeah, fast forward, I've known Mohan previously as well the last couple of years when I was at Chingari specifically. But yeah, I think the most awesome, when I took a break at the end of last year is when I wanted to focus on something like really solid that's not going to change in 5 years. And that's when I kind of jammed with Mohan. Okay, what's it going to be? What's a cool crypto problem what's a world problem statement that's going to be really relevant in 5 years that we can solve using crypto? So that was the pitch and we brainstormed, and it was fortunate that he was already working on the problem statement, and the story itself was so fascinating that it got me kind of glued in. And then, of course, fast forward, we went to Solana Hackathon. In a matter of 2 months, we shipped a lot of iterations that got the attention of the Colosseum team. So we were able to finish top 2 in the DePIN category and then got into the accelerator as well. So that's like the fastest.
That's like an accelerator.
Accelerator.
pitch.
It was an accelerator before the accelerator itself, and since then it's been a wild ride so far.
Amazing. So I think my first question would be, I think you touched upon it a little bit. How did you two meet, and what was your genesis story, and what made you finally decide to enter the crypto space? What are the values that you guys think the space has that you...
Yeah, this is a funny story. I don't know if he'll recall. So it's like sometimes
everything.
So it's to give you context, it was just before or after the Lisbon FTX crash.
Okay.
So at the time, of course, I was trying to figure out who else is working in the creator economy space and something. So I was pinged him randomly saying that, okay, fine. Okay, it seems like one of the people who are actually trying to solve the problem. I saw his LinkedIn posts. Then I pinged him, are you interested or something like that?
Wrong channel.
Yeah, wrong channel, but sometimes it starts out very differently, right? I barely expect anything from LinkedIn, but he did respond. Then he got on a call, then I understood more about what he has worked and what his background, and I got to know about his team as well. So that was actually a bit fun start. Then we tried working out some really good collaboration with Chingari, the art design team. We kind of jammed together, and I got to know more. So we did work on some really good stuff, which didn't get into production. That's a different story. But that was the time I got to know more about him. And he also got to know more about my journey, which is like, what is this weird journey? Like, someone who started medicine and suddenly in crypto.
For real.
Yeah, so that's the long, short version of it.
So what's your side, Mohan? Like, that's Doc's side, but what were you doing before And how did you guys start like collaborating and stuff?
Yeah, so I just did like the one-line intro, but maybe I'll go a little deep down. So I come from a deep tech and management background. So I've been a serial entrepreneur since 2006, actually.
Yeah.
So I specialize in kind of finding niche areas that require technological solutions to fill the gap and to solve that real problem. That's where I kind of honed my skill. So I've been working with urban mobility and logistics space. So where I built a company called Auto Hona with my friends, and then that was a good run. And then I also worked in healthcare IoT, and there we did a smart chair. It was an IoT device where we kind of plugged it in and connected sensors with multiple different devices, and then got all the data and did like a lot of health analytics. So we used to mostly provide this to corporates for employee health checks. And then over time I worked across multiple technologies like metaverse, gaming engines, and all that. But when he reached out, what was when I saw his profile on LinkedIn, I was like, okay, he's a medical doctor, so I share a lot of passion for healthcare as well. So I thought, okay, it'll be good to catch up and see what's happening, because for me, I always experiment with new technology. There's something that I always keep building. Even if I'm building a project, there's always something that I'm just kind of hacking around with, just as a hobby. So that's when I think we made a good friendship there, and then we kept working together, trying to find ways to keep together. But the whole idea of this DeCharge started when I went to buy an electric vehicle. I was just kind of taking a break.
Which year is this?
This is in 2020, early 2023.
Okay.
Around early to mid 2023, I went to buy an EV car, and my wife ends up asking the gentleman if there's how do I charge it. He goes, no, you have to find like at home you're okay, but you have to end up finding a public charging infra. And then she goes, oh, okay, if I have to travel from, let's say, Bangalore to Hyderabad, then I have to find my own chargers. And because I have a toddler. So it's extreme. Whenever we travel, we are very cautious because you never know, right? I mean, when there's a tantrum.
Yeah, of course.
When there's a diaper break. So, and then it got me thinking if this is a really big problem for everybody else. And turns out it is. Range anxiety is a really big problem because there are a lot of people who get stranded on for lack of power. So then I went and spoke to my friends who run fleets at Tata and others and saying, why are you guys not building the infrastructure? But the truth is that they are not in the business of infrastructure development. They are in the business of vehicles. It's like asking why, let's say, for example, a car company doesn't own a petrol station.
Right.
They will never get into that business. It's not their business. And this entire electronic highways, as we call it, setting up an EV, connected energy infrastructure, was not on anybody's books. There are companies who are working to build that, which I think are going to be one of the most valuable companies of the future, because for me, it kind of dawned that they are going to be the fuel companies of the future. Think of Saudi Aramco today, think of ExxonMobil, think of Shell, think of British Petroleum, Indian Oil. These are going to get replaced at some point with electric. And most of the governments have mandate to be fully electric, and most of the car companies also have a mandate to go electric by 2035. So given all of this, there is no infrastructure. Like, where would I even stop? So that's when we thought, okay, start building around it, and I started kind of building a prototype of a charger that runs on open charge point protocol to see if I can remotely control it, if I can without human intervention. Basically, every time I build a product, my thesis is going to be that it does not, the minimal human intervention, the better.
Right.
Because every time you involve a human component, it only gets more expensive and operationally intensive, because you have to manage the person, and that person requires another manager, and so on and so forth. So based on that, we just kind of started building this protocol, built a backend, built a very intense architecture to kind of remotely control any device from anywhere in the world. And I want the interface to be so simple that anybody who's near the charger just has to send a WhatsApp message saying start. It will start. So to enable that, we had to implement a lot of things, and that's when, during that time, I shared this problem statement with the doc and we were thinking, okay, this is the right way to go, and this is a big problem. We both resonated on the same problem statement equally, and we were both looking at solving like a real world problem, like something that every person has. Some of them have faced, and most of them are going to face in the future. And we thought, okay, this is something that is a common goal for us both, and then let's kind of synergize. And we started working deeper and faster. And after that, we got into Colosseum, and all of that, is history, and we're rapidly deploying now. Yeah,
Amazing.
That's long story short.
Amazing. So, since you said, right, most governments are mandated to go fully electric. So, my next question to you, Doc, is why is there no public infra around this? If there is a mandate for the government, there is like they are told to go fully electric. What is missing in the public infrastructure currently, and what role does DePIN play?
Yeah. I think prior to that, there is a different worldview of this, have a different worldview of why this thing exists, right? I think the growth of India has always been around like software innovation. Like my motivation is always be contrarian. So I always like even the medtech startup that I joined was like actually a medical device company where I was also working on software and hardware as well, because hardware and innovation it's insanely difficult being in a country like India. I always motivated to try finding loopholes there. The innovation ecosystem itself doesn't exist. So even if the government kind of throws a grant or something, it's not going to. People are very business focused. That's the primary goal. So there is little ground to work around innovation. I think that's a cultural setup of India. But that doesn't mean that. But the growth of India has actually come from software innovation, right? And this is like a great opportunity because DePIN kind of gives you that software framework, right? I think that's very important.
What is DePIN? I have to stop you there.
Yeah.
Because I think people...
Yeah, we'll get there.
Yeah.
And for those who are aware, we'll get there. Who are unaware, we'll get there. But I think it's fundamentally a software layer. There's nothing too much to be complicated, but...
it's more of a framework.
Yeah, more of a, it's a great framework, so we can kind of work how it works today and how it will work in the future. So yeah, at least for a country like India, and I think software innovation is always kind of puts us forward. So I always had that dream, okay. But yeah, as an entrepreneur, founders, people work on both hardware. You have to build your own hardware and software. Only then you know market insights.
Yeah.
So I think that is where India lies in, but the software always gives us the lever action to go global, right? And that's also our motivation. It's like, how do you take a local Indian problem? It's not just local, but India is a proponent of in the world of finance and business already, right? And hardware is no different. If there's a really good software layer on top of it, and I think there's a really great opportunity to go global, right? I think that's very important. So even in this case, it's no different. Government mandates, how much ever government mandates come, if it's like, it's just like, let's say there's a healthcare program called for tuberculosis. That alone is not gonna, it's like a one-sided effort. You still need an entire ecosystem of doctors, everyone to come forward to kind of solve that problem. The same with this mandates as well. Mandates may be there, but it requires a very coordinated approach. And that is the philosophy behind, any innovation. Even in this case, the same, right? And even this is a great offshoot of that. I would be saying that DePIN, if you treat DePIN as an instrument to keep it at the forefront to solve it, that's not going to work. There has to be a core fundamental problem at the heart of it. So, and I think that's what is more exciting in this particular domain that we started off, right? And I think the software offshoot itself is a great innovation to kind of take it forward. Okay. And answering that DePIN question, so think of it like this: like how did Airbnb, Uber kind of start, right? It's like renting out vehicle, renting out ride shares from a big company. They are selling it out real estates, right? It's real estate selling, right? That's what happened. And it kind of grew. It kind of brought in people with cars to rent out their rides, or people with homes to rent out their spaces, right? That's how it kind of evolved. Imagine in a future where it was actually decentralized, where multiple people are actually have some sort of skin in the game, right? That is the vision behind. That's the vision. Is what DePIN is today, right? Like, what if the dream is to have like a very coordinated effort and kind of tokens kind of give that skin in the game for the users, right? What if if someone feels this company is going to be really huge and it could be like the Uber of future, then I want to get in early when it's like in liquid markets or something like that, right? That's the whole focus. That's the whole gist of it. And
Amazing.
Of course, Helium Hypermapper kind of set the tone for that to be like a success stories, and a lot of it has come forward. And I think even before the market kind of picked up, that was the whole motivation for DePIN. It's like a multiplayer game, right? meme coins is no different. The game is the chart. That's
Yeah.
the product. Here the product is how do you get into an economy early, right? You're gonna have investors come in in different places, different phases for public market. In DePIN, the short answer is it's multiplayer game where you actually have the chance for community members to kind of participate in different formats. So yeah, that's the long and short version of it.
Got it. I think as we dive deeper into, the device
Yeah.
and, all the specifics, it'll be clearer because I want people to understand physical infrastructure networks and what that really means in DePIN, right?
Yeah.
Because there are infrastructure networks and then there's decentralized infrastructure networks. So I'm sure we'll come to that. But let's take a step back before that, right? I think because you guys are in EV charging and that's the energy space, that's sustainability, that is obviously the whole world is mandated, and also like you can see the consumer mindset also is like, we want to like move towards that direction. So how's the energy consumption going to change, right? Like what's going to be this trend, and like basically where are we going towards in the next decade?
Yeah, so this is very interesting. I'll just just kind of extend what Doc said earlier and go slightly deeper into this whole DePIN schematic, okay, if we can call it a schematic. So basically it's a infrastructure network, right? I mean, it's a physical infrastructure network. What a corporation does by deploying private infrastructure is now replaced by community ecosystem through participation by each institution or a person or entity being a node. So instead of one corporation deploying, let's say, 10,000 charging stations, you will have a DeCharge community, each deploying maybe 2, 3, 5, 1, whatever it is, to create that connected mesh of charging networks. Now, the same layer also applies for inflow of money, which is revenues, which means that instead of all the revenue going back into one corporation, this revenue will go back into the community. Right? Now, that is the fundamental way to solve. And why DePIN is also a very interesting thing which has to be addressed before we even get to how energy is going to be consumed, because it forms the basic premise of why we are building this.
Yeah.
So you could have any project and people come up with saying, hey, it's a DePIN project.
Yeah.
It's really not, it doesn't really work that way. It's a specific, think of it as a toolbox, right? I mean, you have to use a specific tool to solve a specific problem.
Yeah.
Correct.
Look, if I have to unscrew something, I have to use a screwdriver. And if it's depending on the type of that screw, you have to use that specific screwdriver, basically.
Correct.
Now, all of these things are protocols, frameworks, schematics built to solve certain problems. These are tool sets. And for solving something like this energy problem, DePIN is the most appropriate tool to achieve that, right? And the reason why that is so good at it is because it incentivizes both the ecosystem players and the investors who are willing to fund that ecosystem. And now, why again that kind of extends into velocity of how quickly this can accelerate. There was a talk earlier and I was talking about the need for it. If there's a private corporation, let's take the standard ecosystem of fuel stations for cars right now. This entire economy of fuel stations, in India, there might be maybe around 75,000 fuel stations, maybe 90,000. I don't know the exact number. But globally, there are X number of fuel stations. It has taken close to 4 or 5 decades to reach this level of availability of fuel, access to fuel. Okay? Right now, fuel is energy, right?
Yep.
So, to achieve that for electric, we cannot now wait for another 40 years.
Yeah.
It's not possible because of there are different net zero emission mandates by governments. We cannot simply wait. This is whether we want to wait or not, we will be forced to adopt electric faster because people are seeing that electric is giving them lot of advantages, not even just considering climate and climate change and all that as a positive impact. It's also giving immediate monetary and financial advantages, right? So we are already seeing a lot of our partners and fleets moving to electric very swiftly because it's giving them an additional 10 to 12% of savings on logistics. So for a business that does like maybe $1 billion
Right.
a year, that's almost $100 million, right? I mean, that's a sizable chunk. So that is where this whole thing is going. And now that is where this whole ecosystem is going to be built around. Now, when we talk about EV, so talking about the next decade very quickly is, when we talk about EV, people only think of maybe like mopeds or cars, right? First thing that comes to mind when someone says EV is Tesla.
Yep.
Yeah.
But the future is going to be much bigger than that. An electric vehicle can be, right now we're talking about charging infrastructure network, and the charging infra can be used by electric vehicles, which are four-wheelers, it could be cyber trucks, like trucks, buses, anything. But on the other side, it will also be robots, drones, vertical takeoff and landing machines, eVTOLs,
Yep.
right? All of these are going to have to consume energy. And they are going to be autonomous and ubiquitous
Right.
in the next 10-15 years, because we are already seeing Amazon testing drone deliveries. We are already seeing Tesla, Huawei and big companies announcing humanoid robots that they're ready to launch. Like we're seeing a lot of that. We are seeing flying taxis, air taxis, all of that coming through. Now all of these need to be autonomous. And if looking at cars, already we have these self-driving cars, right? Waymo is doing self-driving cars. And when we do these kind of vehicles, electric, they are most likely going to be autonomous, in the sense they will manage themselves. And where do they go and charge? If they're going out, if they're going to get some work done, they have to find a charge point. So unlike humans, they cannot go to home and say, can I charge it? So this requires to set up this entire infrastructure where they can detect, fly, randomly land or go and plug themselves in, start charging and go. So that infrastructure built on top of and building a very secure and a trustless system, assuming that it's secure, is the way to go, because you will have these charge points available everywhere. And we see that these charge points of the future are going to be sort of like the mini fuel stations of the future. They're going to be very scattered, very distributed, because every household is going to have their own sort of like robot or like their own delivery drone, whatever. And they all need charging when they go. So these charging stations will also become sort of like places where people get together. Like microeconomies are going to come up around this. So because the charging takes maybe 30 minutes, so you'll see the small cafe around that place. So these are going to be microeconomic spaces in the future. So charging
Similar to fuel stations, right?
similar to fuel stations, yeah, but more like with slightly more lounging kind of facilities. But yeah, that's where we see this going.
Awesome. I think that segues perfectly well into the next question, right? Let's get into DeCharge. What is the product? How does it incentivize these different players inside of the ecosystem? Yeah, let's get into talking about that.
I think a lot of innovation happened around COVID, right? And I'm sure you guys would have know about Zepto, right? You have used it. All of us have used it.
Every day.
Is it so? Is it a new product? Is it a new concept?
No.
Not exactly.
Danzo has been there. It's always been there. But what they really cracked was starting off from things that don't scale, right? They actually went around doing hyper-local deliveries during the time of COVID, right? And that actually started the micro habits of people. Okay, I'm just going to sit at home. I don't want to lose time going back and forth. And that's what they solved for. They innovated around this dark store model, right?
Yep.
And that's a brilliant model. And suddenly, like, it's a company where everyone wants to invest out of nowhere, right? And they're also like a YC company. It's like brilliant, hats off for people. What this has forced the entire e-commerce industry in India to kind of adapt differently. Hyper local is a culture now, and this hyper local is fueled. Is going to be by EV for sure, because you want frequent delivery. You if you don't get your delivery in 10 minutes, you probably will lose a shit, right? That people are already doing that.
Start and call like where
yeah. So I remember a viral post that happened recently. So Ashen, he posted that he got his PS5 in 20 minutes. And he's like, oh, this is happening in Dubai. Then Irfan kind of retweets it saying that, oh, check India, you're getting in 8 minutes.
Yeah, who's going to tell him?
That went viral, right? So that's the reality we live in. Like, India is far ahead of the rest because they have cracked the hyper-local market. It's fueled by dark stores is what? It's just inventory management, right? Obviously, execution is the gem, but for concept-wise, dark stores is what has really cracked the market. So think of this way, right? What if fuel energy consumption is just like hyperlocal, right? That's the next step. if you look at gross numbers, the infrastructure itself is like nascent. How just if you count the infra only companies, are like very few. When I say very few, it's either they are already in the car making business and they're trying to get into EVs, and then they're trying to get infrastructure. Very few companies have the guts to start infra first, right? That's why you'd say every startup has a chance of failure, but the innovation to succeed around it requires a lot of frameworks, and that's why I brought up the Zepto example. But I think that's where our trend started, right? Like everyone is going for hyperlocal, everyone wants it. So this what prompts is like heavy fuel costs. So these logistic companies, the ones who delegate the work from all these quick commerce billion-dollar unicorns, they are moving towards EVs. Why EVs? I want to ask you guys, like, what do you think they're moving to EVs as a business?
Because I mean, like, it's cheaper, right? Like to charge, like very practically, it's very cheap to charge using electricity on your device.
Okay.
The problem which you all mentioned in the start, range anxiety may be there, but that granted, you'd obviously, it's like every device you use except a car right now is mostly chargeable, right? Your laptop, your phone, your watch, now everybody uses a digital watch. So, I mean, this seems like the natural piece to also make it as efficient, right? That's my answer.
Yeah, I think convenience, cost cutting, and like you had also mentioned, right, there are certain mandates that people need to meet in terms of emissions. So I think it's the only logical next step.
Right.
You guys are kind of thinking a very good sophisticated way, but the average businessman thinks about just two things: how do you reduce costs? How do you save on business time? These are the two things that they focus on.
For sure.
And that is in fact why they were moving to electric, right? It's at least like instead of if for an average gig rider, right, they push that fuel cost onto the rider. They don't reimburse. You ask anyone on the street, they'll tell you the same. And they don't get fuels reimbursed. And that they're like, I don't want this. This is too expensive for me. I'm losing like 30% of my wages. It's not for me. Right? That is why they're moving to EVs. Okay, fine. I'll give you an EV. I'll give you an EV retail company. You get it, and you'll save much cost. That is the saving cost aspect, and they've literally forced an EV adoption by accident, I would say. Maybe by design, but why the design happened because people wanted to save on business cost. Now this again has a scaling issue because the infrastructure is very sparse. Cars have their own EV infrastructure. Highways, that's a whole different thing. And in the dense clusters, the range of an EV bike is very low,
right?
70 kilometers. And with the demand of quick commerce, an average EV rider travels like 150 plus kilometers for around a single pin code.
Okay.
Anyone you ask that in a street, they'll tell you that. And some travel even 250 kilometers. So it's like, and range of an EV is 70. And they have like few places in the entire city to charge. That's why the entire problem. And they lose business costs and they have to charge at their home, and so much problems are there. It's almost like a mini disaster in itself.
Yeah.
So that's the micro angle that kind of opened up this entire field, right? So that's why when you go to business, you're saying, okay, you're not focusing infra. So why don't we give you the infra by opening up these small charge points? As in, like, we are not innovating anything around the expensive infrastructure like OEMs, original energy manufacturing. You're not changing the supply line. You're just providing the access and putting it on the map for discoverability for the users. I think that's how it kind of started. So, yeah, I forgot the question again.
Yeah. No worries. I think
So I think this is the evolution of the problem statement itself. So when the problem statement is as solid, it was a no-brainer for Mohan also to start. Okay, fine, this is a brilliant starting point. Yeah. And the device is just like a facilitator of sorts. It provides energy access frequently. So you find on the map, so because if you know there's on your mindshare there is a station there, you'll automatically go there, charge frequently, and he's gonna save up in a lot of business time, cost time, and his kind of client is also happy.
Yeah,
makes sense.
More than that, it gives them that respite from range anxiety.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, okay, I have a charging station around, which means not only the current work done, but they can also take on extra hours if they need to, because they know they don't have to go back home to sort of like spend another few hours charging and then coming back. So they know that they can be here for a couple of hours, fully charge it, and then go back onto the field. And that's happening right now. We have we're speaking to our partners, and they are kind of telling us that for some percentage, they are seeing conversions where the riders are spending longer hours because their territory has increased.
Yeah.
Earlier, they used to work within, let's say, a
small
30 kilometer radius because they're always close to home.
Yeah.
Right.
Now they are accepting orders which are beyond and which pay them slightly higher because now they know they're not going to get stranded or they don't have to push their vehicle. So, in the past, some of the riders were telling us that when we did a research, that when they were stranded, they would walk to every random shop and say, "Can I charge my bike here for 10?" They would not let them charge maybe 20 minutes, and then they have to go somewhere else. So now that nightmare is not there. So this actually opened up a very interesting business scenario where the fleets and these companies are having expanded territories. They're not limited by a territory of service anymore. They can go further and faster at the same cost per kilometer.
Yeah.
Ah,
So
nice.
that is the economics which is unlocked.
And from what I know, these batteries are heavy, right?
Yeah, these are
They can-
quite heavy.
Yeah.
Yeah, these are quite heavy. And riders, when they take the bike home, if they're in the second floor, third floor, they literally have to take the battery and carry it up, charge it all night, bring it back and fix it.
Yeah.
And actually, a very important note is most of the fleets that we're working with are actually telling us that they're moving away from swappable batteries.
Okay.
And they're going to
Okay.
fixed batteries and they want charging.
Mm.
So for us, like what Doc said, this was a starting point because we wanted to validate the thesis and it was
Right.
like problem staring in our face.
Yep.
But this has multifold
Implications. Right.
But there are different levels of problems in charging. So this is the first one we set out to solve. And so far it's been good. We've signed up fleets now. Over the last 2 weeks itself, we have added close to 3,000 vehicles in the fleet.
Oh, wow.
So,
So tell us about like these partners, right? Like, okay, like for example, who are these guys? And more about like in Hyderabad, right? Because that's where you've been piloting. So just like, what does that look like? How did you get, let's say, the first like initial users and scale from there to this point that you mentioned currently?
yeah, I'll start and then you can pick up from there in the middle. So when we started off in Hyderabad, we originally, before the whole thing started, I had a discussion with my friends in the fleet business. Basically, what happens is in major cities, these hyperlocal companies, these hyperlocal commerce companies, they often outsource that job to fleets who own the vehicles and stuff. Because let's
Okay.
take an example, let's say for maybe Zomato or Zepto, whoever they are not in the business of running logistics. I mean, they're not in the business of running logistics infrastructure. They provide the entire technology platform to optimize for it,
Right.
but let's face it, it's an overhead for them to kind of own vehicles, manage vehicles, service vehicles and all that. So what they do is they outsource it to fleet partners and they pay X per delivery and there are multiple parameters based on which they make money. Now, Doc already covered this in earlier. He said that because petrol vehicles are getting expensive, the fleets are now saying, whenever there's a rider who joins, saying, okay, I'm partnered with these 4 or 5 fleets, go to any one of those. Or in your region, I have exclusive one. Go to that fleet, I'll tell them about your onboarding, rent it from them. So now these riders rent the EV from the fleets at sometimes between 400 to 500 rupees per day. And in some cases, even 250 rupees. It depends on fleet to fleet. They use it for an entire day. Some of them rent it for a week, some for a month, some for 3 months, different packages. So we work mostly with the fleets directly right now because they are the ones who need us.
Yep.
Right.
So we went to a fleet, we were working, and they said, here's all our hubs, please start right away. And another problem from the other side of the fleet is, imagine, let's say a fleet has a few thousand vehicles, let's say 1,000 vehicles. Each bike, each moped or bike takes about 2 kilowatts of energy, minimum. So that leaves 2,000 kilowatts of energy that they have. If they are charging it every day, they need to have like 2,000 kilowatts of energy consumed every day from one location. That's almost 2 megawatts of energy. Every day, all day. Which is going to be insane because now they can't really facilitate for that. They need to have 1,000 electrical connections. The grid, again, there's a grid cost to that because wherever there's a warehouse, the electricity board will notice there's a 2 megawatt
Exactly.
Right.
consumption coming from somewhere every day. So they're going to be priced high. They're not going to pay regular commercial prices. They have to pay higher because the grid has to support it now.
That's ridiculous. Yeah.
So this is why they kind of want this distributed. It's in the best interest of themselves as well as the fleets and the riders, because the cost is anyway offloaded to rider.
Right.
If they charge it, the rider has to pay more because their price per unit of electricity is higher. But if the rider charges elsewhere, the rider pays lesser because it's decentralized, right? I mean, it's hosted by Kirana stores, wherever, and then they're paying a lesser amount. So it's a win-win for everybody in the ecosystem. So
Perfect.
Okay,
So I mean, you already mentioned the device, but like just like a quick, maybe just in like 60 seconds, right? Like how can anybody like set up the device, and like how would it, like, let's say, how would a day in the operation of the device look like?
For most people, any electric appliance is a black box, right? You do some hard work around it so that it abstract the difficulty from the user. Here, what the black box does is provides energy access, as simple as that, and you pay as you go model. That's what it does, right? Because you kind of subsidize the cost. You create increase the supply of charge when the stations are hosted at multiple areas, right? At a very less expensive rate. All you need is like a Wi-Fi connection, because you need it on the map. You need a chipset that connects to the platform. That is our platform, right? That's a core software platform layer, right? That's for discoverability. Because with that discoverability, we drive people towards the charging station, right? The other is you just need like a simple 3-core line energy access, and then of course you create like a marketplace of sorts. You drive demand, people create use supply. That's how the product really works.
Got it.
Technical nuances, he'll go in because he kind of assembled on a pencil. But I had a very strong sense of how it works, because it's like a MVP product that is not even an MVP product, right? When it's actually ready for production, we kind of tested this whole thing ourselves, right? Just things that don't scale kind of a mechanism,
Right,
because it's good enough to be in production that you go ahead with it. Like that's the YC approach of going with something that doesn't scale, and we didn't even think about it. So the best place to start was with 3 kilowatt charger, right? 3 kilowatt hour charger, where it's like it doesn't matter if it's a car, it can charge any vehicle. But it's just that it takes longer for a bigger vehicle. So obviously the lowest hanging fruit was like the demand that we already kind of identified. So that kind of fell in place. So that was our first go to market, and that's how the device kind of worked. You can still technically, there are in fact, we had like one of our clients called Detailing Box. They have all kinds of vehicles come there, and we have like 4 of our devices there.
Oh, cool.
And we recently did a shoot there where people bring their autos, cars, everything to charge there. So it's like an instant discovery. So it's not a 2-wheeler charger. It's just like the kilowatt hour charger that kind of addresses the demand of any vehicle that's willing to spend time on it.
Got it.
Yep.
And what's been just on for like quickly, because obviously you've gone past that point, and you've seen what's working. So what's like, if you can just give us some of the stats that you guys have so far, right? Like how's the traction been in terms of the all of the things that you've achieved?
So how so sometimes when you really believe in if you have done your market research in the product speaks for itself. So we just did a small campaign. Actually, fleets came to us. It's just when we went manually to them, yes, we need, but then the reason they don't understand, they would have 1,000 other things going on. Then we actually did a small campaign with a very few influencer friends who kind of did it. It went kind of viral, and then people saw the video from all over the place, and they were pinging us. Then we had to say, no, we're only in Hyderabad, so let's start there. And of course Bangalore, but we'll get there eventually. So that was the first. So first demand layer, how do we address it? So we started at one client at a time, and that's how. So in terms of traction that we had achieved for the last, like there were like of course 6 weeks where we were just like manually finding customers, right? This sounds amazing. Come and pay. Just using a WhatsApp or just simple phone pay integration. That's what we did. Even though we had an app, people preferred like a 2-click experience. How do you reduce the number of clicks in a customer experience? I think Brian Armstrong from Coinbase places this beautiful example of how they started Coinbase was just like they didn't have. None of what you see today existed back then. People just wanted to buy Bitcoin easily. That's how we started. So we went to Reddit profiles. That was how we started. So we went, okay, fine. App is too difficult for you. People don't want to discover. Okay, fine. Let's remove the app. Simple phone pay integration, scan QR, payment, off you go. That's it. So that's what scaled our traction after a lot of soul searching. So then, of course, it was kind of all upwards. Trajectory was upward. Suddenly we started people coming in. Like traction was just jumping up and down. In terms of numbers, I'll let him say, because he has the entire. He looks at the data more every day more than I do. I look at more crypto Twitter and other stuff. So yeah, traction numbers
So
you can
Doc is
say.
a degen.
We are all completely reject.
Yeah. So
Yeah, so I think most of it Doc covered perfectly well. So, but what we're seeing is we're seeing a huge uptake. We are seeing, actually, the interesting thing is that now we are seeing waiting times at the devices. Earlier, we did not have, we had empty spaces. Now, I think that itself is a significant measurement metric to show that people are actually looking forward to come there. And right now, we have just over 158 chargers deployed across the country, and working with different partners. Now we are setting up another 30 chargers in Delhi.
Wow.
That was closed yesterday. So we are getting a demand left, right, and center. Like teams are just on calls, just taking calls, saying that can we or can we not solve it. And most of the people are even saying, look, you don't even have to find places, because the delivery guys are calling us and saying, I'll host it and I'll make money off of it by calling my colleagues. That's what's happening. Actually, out of a 158 chargers deployed, 45%, 46% actually are owned by community, which is our users.
Wow.
And 50% of those are deployed by our delivery, like the actual delivery boys who work with fleets. They saw it at the fleets, they saw there's a monetization that's happening around it, so they contacted the company and they just acquired, they said, I have place in this so-and-so, can you deploy for me? And they are now calling their friends to come and charge there, because
Amazing.
they are making money. That's the true spirit of decentralization.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
So
Right,
yeah, I think
absolutely.
that's the of course for a centralized corporation is always like how do you accumulate control at every step of the journey, right? That's how the equity has to grow. But the spirit of us, okay, how do we let people make money out of it? Like it's a common resource. It's not as crazy as a telco, which is like a very government controlled one, right? Here it was okay. Let's try different ways for people to make money, right? Another funny thing was maybe the details will be live maybe in like a couple of weeks, maybe. So one of our mutual friend says that I have this friend in Thailand and he's interested about the device, but he wants skin in the game. How do we make money out of it? I mean, what are you saying? That's exactly what we're doing in India. It's
That's
like,
the whole point.
So
That's
like,
the whole
then,
point of it.
then you're like, okay, fine. But in India, what we do is, okay, we'll start with the pilot and 3 months. This is how it was worked really well. As long as there's a decent partnerships with the client, and then we let them, okay, fine, take more rev share, make more money of it. And we are more than happy to do that. We'll reduce our platform fee to bare minimum. And we kind of own we look at it, each device as like a network activation cost. It's not, that's how we have to look at it. Everything else is like rev share, so that they don't have to invest in infrastructure. All we do is just activate it from a company perspective, and value for us grows. And even for our mutual client, who's hopefully becomes a client, he said, like, okay, that sounds amazing. Let's start with the pilot. After 3 months, I want like dealership for the entire like 100 locations in Thailand. I'm like, yeah, go ahead, please.
Yeah.
I'm like,
By
we're
the
like,
way, we're in Bangkok, so just for context, we're recording it here.
yeah, that's of course it returns.
It says Bangkok.
Yeah, couldn't do it in Bangalore, so we flew out here and did it.
No surprises there.
Yeah, that's the
But
context
Doc
here.
actually, go
That's the context where it's like, see, it's people just need to know the truth in a very interesting way, and things scale out of nowhere, right?
Yeah.
We just had to keep telling the story, and this client kind of knew about it for 6 months. Then he said,
Right.
I didn't know you operate this way. Then okay, I want the pilot. And we are actually limiting him. We'll start with 2 devices, because we could not bring 40 devices all the way from India. We brought the 2 devices.
Crazy, yeah.
And okay, fine. So hopefully we close the deal too. Yeah.
We have actually Doc touched upon 2 very interesting points, which are so electricity is the same wherever you go in the world. It's like water; it flows, right? I mean, it doesn't work differently in India than it does in the US or in Thailand, right? I mean, that makes our product so stable that it can be the same. And people consume electricity the same way everywhere in the world, and they consume it every day, over and over and over again.
Correct.
So there is no one use case where somebody will wake up in the morning and say, no, I'm done charging my phone, I'm not charging it anymore. I'm done. It is inevitable that so I want this discussion has like what we said, this is so profound that we wanted to solve a problem that's going to exist for a very long time. The demand is only going to go up and never going to go down.
Correct.
And this is a problem where money is going to flow in, because whenever there is demand and consumption, that's always in a cyclic, there will be money that comes in. So there is money for ecosystems to win. here
Right.
instead of going into corporations. So right now, maybe LNG productions are happening through centralized grids, through thermal and coal and traditional modes. But in the very near future, I'm talking not even years, I'm talking like maybe the next couple of months. We've seen Glow, who's doing very good in solar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We are also introducing a very interesting product called the VoltBox. Maybe it's a good time to insert that clip here,
Amazing.
which is a fully solar powered off-grid charging device,
Okay.
which does not require doesn't require any plug-in to a grid. So it does not require any major permissions of electricity installation. Users can just kind of get that VoltBox. If they have a backyard, space in their backyard or front yard, they just put it there, drill it into the ground, and it starts working through solar. It can power up to 12 cars every day.
12 cars.
12 cars.
And is it only cars, or can it power, let's say, if it's...
Well, depending on depends on the production, on the number of solar panels that are deployed, and it can go, even if there's a larger space, it can go up to 25 cars also.
Okay.
That technically, when I say that in easy to understand terms, when I say 100 cars, 10 cars, it means that it can do about 500 kilowatts of energy.
Correct.
Right. So that could mean maybe 2 Cybertrucks. Or 3 Cybertrucks, or maybe 1 large bus or something like that. But the opportunity for monetization, and here it's all solar, so their cost is basically not paying anybody else, right? I mean, if the network is charging 30 cents per kilowatt hour as base rate, and if a car consumes, let's say, 50 kilowatts, the money that's made is all net, and the cost of this hardware is recovered in maybe 12 to 16 months, but the lifetime is 11 years.
Yeah.
So this keeps making money for minimum of 7 years and maximum 11 years after payback of 2 years. So just imagine how much potential there is in this space.
Yeah, and this again is not our product per se. It's just a go-to market which people kind of love it. There are going to be a lot of players, right? Solar is not a domain, but
Absolutely.
it's an adjacent domain, and there are many players there who's kind of waiting to kind of use it. So it's great to see that we are somehow at the center of it, of course, because they also want to kind of, because electricity is like electrons, it needs to flow somewhere. If the solar is not consumed, it just is wasted. That's how it works. So every solar economy revolves around demand, consumption, and everything. How do you monetize as much as possible? Here's the same case. Like, we are providing the demand layer for them, and we are kind of consuming it and offsetting the cost. So that's how it'll work in terms of renewables. And we are not even talking about the other spectrum of energy demand. Like, of course, these GPU clusters that are fueling the AI chatbot that you see used today.
Right. Yeah.
People are talking about nuclear,
Insane.
nuclear to save up on costs. Like, recently they remarked that to get more GPUs, to reduce the cost of the GPU consumptions, electricity consumption, they're building nuclear reactors. All big corps.
Wow.
They are actually buying. Considering
companies
nuclear,
are investing in nuclear.
not just grid companies. All the frontier companies who have like 100 billion sitting in the bank.
Yeah.
Right? So they're all going nuclear. Okay, this is the way to kind of subsidize it. Out of nowhere, nuclear will get picked up. This is not something you'll see in this entire year, right?
Right.
So to build a frontier model of AI, you need like 100 billion to stay in the game.
Yeah.
That's also the other one, first world problem. So for us, okay, fine. How do we solve this? The closest problem is in a way that doesn't scale for now, but eventually you will get there.
No, but that is where our North Star lies.
Yeah.
That is what drives us in the morning. I mean, of course, you're helping. If you have to cross a path, you don't jump from one place to other. You take steps that are logical so that
Correct.
okay, validated, done, move, checklist like that, right? So eventually, okay, if it's completely boiled down, I see this as a planetary scale, a humanity scale problem.
Yeah,
Okay,
absolutely.
I would say actually it's a humanity scale opportunity, not a problem. For humanity to become type 2 civilization or whatever, like to upgrade, the only thing that is necessary is energy.
Correct.
And access to energy.
Yeah.
And if we are not solving for that right now, I think we would have missed the bus.
Yeah, and access to energy in a sustainable manner.
In a sustainable
right?
manner, yeah. And so much of energy is needed. And access to energy is also required.
Yep.
So we are now solving for both of those by working with any and every aspect to make this mission as possibility. Energy access has to be sustainable, accessible, easy.
Yeah.
Okay, to power all of our needs. Like AI has kind of like made us superhuman these days.
Yeah.
Right? Phones are extended. For us, it's an extension of our
Extension
human
of
body,
ourselves,
right?
yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
so all of this needs energy, and to make that happen, doing less sometimes is more.
Yeah.
Like Doc was saying earlier, and I wanted to say at that time, because to reach this level 1 that we are at,
Right.
we had to unlearn a lot of things from our standard business book. Like, for example, every time you talk to someone, say, "Can I see your app? Can I download your app? Can I see your app?" We learned the hard way that having an app is actually a barrier of entry for us because of
Yeah.
app is real estate on
Because
the
of
phone.
drop-off.
Drop-off, people don't want to install it. They don't understand, maybe. I mean, why, like, if they have, let's say, 10 different charging companies, they have to install 10 different apps.
Yeah.
So we have to break those barriers, and we went back to the very basic. We said, what do you want? Okay, you want to enable it just through WhatsApp? Go to the charger, scan a QR code, send start button. It'll start.
Yeah.
Once you're done, click stop button. It'll send you a link. Click on the link, pay by UPI. Done, you're done.
Exactly.
No sign up, no registration, nothing.
This is what even Metro is doing now, no? Bangalore. Because that entire process of buying a token, buying a card, to then enter the metro, then recharging that card was too much work.
Yeah.
So now people are just buying directly token on WhatsApp.
And then scanning it.
Yeah.
No, perfect.
Amazing
perfect.
times.
Yeah.
No, I think there's I see it makes sense. Like, you have the North Star vision, and obviously you have to like attack it one layer at a time. So I want to go on a little bit of a tangent here, right? And also make people understand actually the network you're building on and why that's an important choice in your journey, right? So let's talk about Solana.
Yep.
Let's talk about how it factors into your project. And obviously, so far I've gotten that users have had nothing to care about in the way you guys have done things about the backend. But still, for people interested, how does it actually matter, right?
Yeah. Here again, a very contrarian approach. The easiest answer is, of course, I've been around in Solana ecosystem, so it's so easier to connect with the community and everything, but that comes later.
Yeah.
I think from a very fundamental perspective, the cost of starting a company is very, very simple, right? Before, it required $1 million just to make a difference. Now, companies pump.fund, it takes like 2 degens creating a bonding curve that suddenly they're like a
Speaking
fastest.
from experience.
Yeah, right? So the cost of starting a company has dramatically reduced everywhere, and I think that's the basic difference that Solana has created, right? Low gas fees. That was very simple problem. Of course, it required a bit of physics problem, which I think Toli and team kind of solved it. It was very difficult. Back then, people didn't even care about Solana. Like that's a huge thing in itself, right? I think the entire reach to Solana shift happened before that for a lot of people. For us, how do you start a company without thinking too much about chain abstraction or whatever? All this cross chain was, I don't even want to read. Of course, the nerd in me kind of likes deep diving because my entire crypto arc started when I read the basics. No trading, nothing, like mastering Bitcoin, mastering Ethereum. I think these are the OG books.
books, I love.
OG
Yeah,
books
sure.
that anyone should read. Not trading. Of course, we can make money of Doge, Shiba, and everything. But if you really want to get that ethos, you have to study how it all started. Of course, I have those roots, right? How I studied those books, and then of course, getting to Solana was like a user experience thing, right?
Right.
Pace. Okay, you solved that over the last 3-4 years. They solved it like in a brilliant way. Now comes the next wave of companies. How do you build an app without thinking about, okay, which rollup do I go for? Of course, maybe Solana will get into that through network extension. For us, it doesn't matter. How do you start? The cost of starting a company should be simple. You think about the chain later, build your company and apps upfront. So that's the basics. Anything else is just added layers of easiness and whatever people tell. But for any company to build, the chain should just abstract itself. So it could be any other chain also, right? So fortunate to have a very good ecosystem in the last 2-3 years. The community has kind of gone through grids since FTX and everything. And I think the fundamentals have always remained the same, right? You would have seen a lot of big investors come in and exit in the Solana ecosystem, but the fundamentals have remained the same. That was always so. For the same thing, right? I think the change problem should come at the last. And that was the biggest unlearning for me because when I got too deeper into it, I was like, okay, fine. But to what end? How much fragmentation will you keep solving? Right? You should also make people to start companies on chain, right? And because it's for reducing human cost coordination. I think that's the basic answer, and everything else is like extra gloss around it.
Yeah, I think I want to add a few context to this. So it's a good time to talk about. Generally, we get asked this question, saying, why do you even need to use a blockchain? Why can't you just do it as a traditional business? It's a straightforward. You're tackling a big problem. You have a clear problem statement. You have a demand. You have people using it. They're paying you already. Why do you need a blockchain? Right. So that's the question that we get asked. But we're not building it for now. We're building it for the future.
Yeah.
Right. And we touched about it where we're talking about ubiquitousness of electric vehicles, whether in a daily scope of life. And on the other hand, we have this whole decentralized infrastructure where people are deploying it on their behalf. Now, they need to have a clear, they need to have guarantee of transaction.
Yeah.
So they need to know that, okay, this is the transaction that happened, this is the money I'm going to make. So all the because all of this is happening in a trustless environment, or assuming that this is zero trust environment, saying that all actors, no actor, there's no trust on any actor because there's no human intervention there. So there is a possibility of spoofing it. So we need the entire blockchain layer there to make sure that these transactions are valid. So in fact, the next product we're going to talk about and the current products we've integrated DIDs into this and the messaging layer from DeFi, who are our partners, into this, so that all the devices send information and they're recorded on chain, so that no rewards, no transactions, no payments are missed. Like all of those are properly recorded and then transactions happen. So right now maybe there's a bandwidth for us to manage these few hundred deployments and say, okay, this is where something went wrong and here's your reimbursement. But when it gets to a few million devices or a few million charge points, it is impossible for us to, that level of service is impossible to maintain. So it's not going to be humanly possible. And we need to provide infrastructure and systems in place for the machines to work around those contracts. So that is the reason why it requires a blockchain and Web3 in the first place. That is where that answer is. I mean, there is nothing stopping us to go out and build it as a traditional Web2 business, but it's not going to scale globally. Because if I deploy, let's say, somewhere in Mexico, somewhere in Colombia, how will the payments transact? I need to now go into cross-border payments to make them real-time. Like if they want real-time reward, they have to give them. How do I make it possible?
Exactly.
For sure.
So token is going to solve that problem. That liquidity layer is going to come there. So this is the reason why we have carefully thought through and built it on this framework. It's very strongly, perfectly positioned. It's built for the future.
Got it.
For the uninitiated, actually, there's even a better answer. Like, for example, this is a great answer for the tech nerds out there, right? Verification cost for traditional infrastructure is very expensive, right? Of course, when there is transaction involved, there is tokens involved, any kind of transaction, even verification cost for physical device is insanely high. DePIN provides a framework for that, right? How do you bring in decentralized infrastructure, reduce infrastructure costs? That's possible, right? And because if you're giving out tokens, these are also like expensive resources for people. You want the value to flow towards actual users. You don't want to get. Of course, gaming can happen. That's fine. That happens all the time. But for device economies or machine economies, you like to call it, the verification cost is something like that is already solved for. But at the same time, I think verifying and making sure the user is actually providing value and then giving out tokens, that is also the shorter answer of why the frameworks are really important in terms of this use case.
Yeah, I think that it's only the logical next step, right? Because you're building already a trustless network and it's community oriented. So blockchain fits very seamlessly into the whole picture.
So basically the dream is like for our, let's say we are working at this for 5 years. Let's say the team vanishes.
Exactly.
Then the economy should still function, right?
Exactly.
That's the whole point of things. Right? I think that's traditional companies have a risk of failure or two if capital runs out. What if we run out of capital?
Exactly.
But the community can still continue to exist. They can power it. They can still use it because token exists, right?
Yeah,
I think that's the beauty of it.
Ties into his point of as minimal human interaction as possible, right?
Exactly. Including the founders and the core team.
Yeah.
At a foundation level, we have to be focused on solving the next step and making sure this availability is there. But once it's a very easy to solve problem. Once it's established, it's easy for the community to take over from there. It doesn't require any complex thing. So, I mean, limited human intervention wherever we can.
Yeah.
We will reduce the error also and increase the quality also. And instead of saying trustless, I think it will be very good to kind of replace that word with permissionless.
Permissionless. Yeah.
So,
Perfect.
because anyone, anywhere can function in this ecosystem,
Right.
including humans or machines or whatever it is, and still ensure that it's running. Basically, the consumption is of power and the payment is happening somehow. They know that transaction happened.
Yeah.
And just one comment, because people often say that like blockchains are so good for coordinating capital and humans, right? So I think this is a very real example of how that works, because I mean, at least for me, like it's not been the most obvious thing to like conceptualize, because it's not a very straightforward concept. But when you say capital and human coordination, simply means, like you said, if somebody in Mexico is wanting to deploy this device, how can I, at the same standard framework, like, base layer, track them, quantify them, and reward them?
Correct.
And it doesn't matter what time of day it is.
Yes.
I could be in Norway, I could now be in
Exactly.
India, Australia.
Exactly.
But everyone, because the incentive is clear,
Correct.
the framework is clear,
Correct.
the basic like way to set up and connect to the network is clear, like anybody can come in and do it.
Correct.
So I think this is like a very, very beautiful example of that, and it made it a lot clearer for me as well.
Yeah. It's an economy in itself.
Correct.
Yeah.
So, electricians can get incentivized for installing it. They can be set of people who want to provide customer support for it. Everything happens through this liquid token, right? I mean, it's an economy by itself, and that's a network state.
Yeah.
Correct. Yeah.
And it doesn't need Mohan or Doc.
No, we don't have to.
After
Our
some time,
intention is to build it in
Yeah.
a way where it doesn't require Mohan or Doc.
Amazing.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
Because in fact that is the problem we are solving. Actually, that is the problem statement. We got to a place where we're talking about our mission. I've spoken about our vision of energy, but the problem statement is to make it in such a way that this can be solved at a global level, not at a micro or a hyper local level. Right now we started the game there,
Yeah.
Of course.
but this is the only way to go there.
Yeah.
Building a charging infrastructure company through a centralized mechanism is going to be mighty difficult for any corporation.
Yeah.
And to a point where it's simply not scalable or sustainable, because you're placing a lot of responsibility and a lot of tasks on one corporation, one set of individuals.
Right.
It can break under any kind of
Yeah.
pressure.
Single point of failure.
It's a single point of failure, correct. Now, if it has to be built this way, and this is the only right way. Well, I won't say it's the only right way. I think this is the solution that has the highest probability of success to
Nice.
solve this particular
Nice way to
problem.
put it.
And that's the way we want to go after.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Speaking about founders, right? And speaking about the two of you, I think let's get into just understanding what does it take to be a founder that's solving such a large scale problem, right?
Yeah.
What is it that drives you out of bed every day to solve this problem?
Energy is something that is built into human life.
Yeah.
The fact that I am building something that is going to provide access to continued energy for the entire of humanity is something that is very, very exciting for me. Again, I think what drives me out of bed is the fact that I'm solving a planetary scale problem, a humanity scale problem, which has to be done by somebody.
Right.
Someone has to start where it is. And the best place to start is for someone who understands how the mathematics of how to solve this, or the approach to how to solve this, with some experience, some basic pedigree, someone who's done this or built some sort of organization in the past. Somehow, after all of this analysis, I mean, obviously, when you start a business, you will obviously evaluate yourself as well, saying, are you capable of doing it? Can you do it? Can you not do it? You would not. Today, I'm not going to wake up in the morning and say I'm going to start an exchange, because it is not my skill set. So we've done that evaluation internally multiple times. We've tested ourselves also a lot. And we are at a very strong conviction that we are a very good set of people, a team of people that can actually attack this problem and solve it, because we understand the technology part of it, we understand the energy part of it, we understand the Web3 part of it, the blockchain part of it as well.
Yeah.
To bring these three together. Now, there could be even deeper aspects to this. Let's say, for example, there could be a a converter to DC converter or something. I might not be someone who will design that converter, but I have very good talent working with me to help me build that. Like, there's always something that, again, when you're building it with this kind of passion and with this kind of in conviction, the universe is bound to send people across your way who are going to help you. So somehow I think it's a good time to mention how we came and built a very strong partnership with our partners at DeFi. Amazing. They have come. We were struggling with one specific set of problem, and even so happened that I met Shea Wang in New York, and then we ended up having a conversation. It was so profound, and he said, "No, I can help you with this." And then we dove so deep into this that we came up with a solution together. Oh my God, that gave me goosebumps. I think that's how we are going to just keep running.
No, so tell us about that. What is the partnership like, and what are they focusing on? What are you focusing on?
Yeah, before we I have a very meta philosophical answer to the question.
Of course.
So for founders, I think this applies for everyone. You don't need to be a founder to solve things. So to me, for founders, struggle is a product. So for me, the journey started.
I'm stealing that.
Because I remember a lot of people tweeting this, it happens. A lot of founders, even when they retire, let's say they get an exit. For 40 days they have vacation. No, I can't handle this. I have to go back to work. They want to find the next struggle. What is the next big thing to do? They go. That's what motivates them. That's the drive. You can't install drive into someone. You have to. It has to be an inbuilt design, and it's not for everyone. That's completely fine. For me, it started when being a medical doctor involves long hours and everything. The struggle was there, and it was not that I was not interested in medicine, but my struggle was a lot of problem statement there. I was in a medical domain where 65 hours of duty straight with probably 2-3 hours of sleep. I was very used to that, and I used to so much problems. How am I going to solve this? I can't work in this setup. I need to go and solve this. So that's what kind of prompted me to kind of eventually quit and find out where to study the nuances. Studied engineering, took up subjects that most engineers even fail, and cleared it somehow. For the engineering nerds out there, you must have heard about digital signal processing. It's actually renamed to degree stopping paper for a lot of people. But so when I took that subject, he said, I don't think you're going to pay. You have to change the subject. No, I was like, no, I'm not leaving. I'll clear this somehow. And it was almost ended up like a regret for me. But that was the one subject that gave me the equal challenges I did in medicine. So to me, I went all the way. Somehow got a C grade, and I got through. And he was like, the professor who told me that you're not going to clear it, he ended up being my co-author in a paper. So that was my motivation that entire year, right? The same thing progressed when I worked in MNCs. What is this? This is so slow. People are moving so slow. This is not for me. Then I started picking other people who had their entrepreneurial drive. Were not necessarily founders. They worked with them. Then I okay, this is not for me. Then I started working with my first company that was full-time as a medtech startup. It was a medtech. I pinged the founder and I said what you guys are building interesting. It will be great to kind of chat. And he said, and he booked a flight for me immediately and said, this is great. I was searching for a profile like you. Help me solve this. Then I joined the company. So I was working with the founder, and you almost take up the delegated. It's like you work as work closely with the founder. You pick up a lot of nuances. Same thing with Singare. So Sumit was a very motivated person, but he was a crypto founder itself, right? That the speed is even higher. That was the next level of experience, and I think that's a struggle itself is the summary of it.
Love that.
So that's how. And I think 100%. that's the same thing that's going to remain the same here also, right? It's how so much struggles that we see every 2-3 months. It's you look back and it's oh wow.
Each level in a game, but it's actually I strongly resonate with that. I think
and even the recent founders, will right we had deck was horrible, and people were saying I went to Mod and said what the hell is this? He wrote a scathing one page and I said then I was what do I do? Then I was just tweeting out something. I tweeted something to manifest when your back is against the wall, you come up with insane ideas. Then I actually went and changed the entire deck, unlearned what we have, then flipped it a new design and went all out the next day. And I don't even know if I can repeat that feat. That's how it was. No,
for sure. I think it's when you reach those back against the wall states, it's you stop thinking. You're just so present that it's just literally about okay, how can I get to the next smallest thing? And then suddenly everything clicks, right? I remember because I was there, right, with you. You were there, you were nervous a little bit before the demo day, right? So for context, founders, Villa at the end of each week has a demo day and like, a lot of projects pitch, right? And Doc was convinced, or at least in his head, his narrative was, I don't think we're going to win. They're going to like, give it to somebody else who's new. But then like what worked, which is really cool, is no other project got a video demo. Only on DeCharge's presentation, somehow the video worked, right? And that did the talking. Obviously, he also explained really well, but that really like drove the point home, right?
It was actually
And after, by the way, the point being, after all the crap, right? Like after like going to Mert, ripping the deck apart, 24 hours, less than 24 hours to go.
Hours. We went till like 4 a.m. in the morning and then got it done.
Mode actually replied like, so much has changed. What did you do? Yeah.
Amazing.
So I think even there, this small story there was like the struggle becomes a product in itself, right? I think that's what kind of changed and
Hustle.
hustle itself, and even that actually kind of innovated the next product as well, which we'll kind of show. Going to that question earlier, right? How do you make something like a global scale? Right now, we solve something for local economy. The global scale is going, of course, you should also allow for an open source module, right? Like anyone can kind of stress test it, audit for themselves, and fuel the nerd in them, right? You could say that. So our next product actually kind of allows for that. It's called Open Source Energy Module. It's something we came up with ourselves while working with DeFi guys. So that's for the hardware nerds out there. It's going to be like they can just buy the device, just test it out. That is one. If in our case it kind of fuels our economy and so on, that's the next step. And it's the next iteration. It's going to be working for all vehicles. But of course, anything that has a BMS, battery management system. So the next product that we're going to showcase is for all vehicles. 4-wheelers, Cybertrucks, Teslas, whatever you name it. Okay. That's how it's going to be. Because this, and for context, for the electrical nerds out there, it's for AC charging. AC charging is like, it's the best economical use case. All the fast chargers are like, it's not healthy for the battery of the vehicles because it's like more and more you use, the battery efficiency decreases. AC charging is like, you can charge yourself with the cost of a coffee, right? Anywhere in the world, right? Even if it's in India, it's like 30 rupees. In the US, it's like say $30. You can fuel your entire car. That's how it kind of works. So this device kind of allows for that, and I think maybe it's time to bring the device.
Yeah, let's do that.
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah. So this is our OSCM charger, the open source energy module charger that we have built, that DeFi guys and us have built together, and this is going to be open sourced now, and this works on fantastic tech stack. All of it to be revealed soon on our blog. But just to keep that suspense going, Doc will add a couple of points to make it more exciting.
Yeah. So just to summarize quickly, so this is like the 0x Mint, you could call it, the first device we are even going on changing the branding and everything. This is the first Mint device. This is just a nozzle that kind of helps charge any vehicle, right? Of course, even if it changes, we can just change the adapter anywhere in the world. Even for the power supply, the same. You can change it to any vehicle. So this is applicable any part of the world, whether it's like APAC, US, EU. It's just like a flipping the switch to the local standards. That's it.
Yeah.
So I think the decentralized stories are going to be really cool. From a device perspective, of course, we're going to open source the infrastructure so that it's not that anyone can develop and plug in. There's of course a little bit of nuance there to preserve quality. As long as you kind of pass the stress test, meet the software standards, it kind of plug in, right? Anyone can technically do that. To save up on that, of course, we kind of try to bring the cost down and kind of take care of the manufacturing part through partners and do it ourselves as well. So this is going to be the future that we really see. Going forward, anyone can buy the device, deploy it, whether it's at home or any public infra.
Got it.
If they already have an AC charger, that is also fine. But of course, because of the additional software support that we kind of add to the network, of course, there will be more incentives if you use a charger because it's easier for us to map it on the platform. But of course, for a permissionless setup to grow, we also allow any charger to kind of plug in. But to start small with a really small global community, I think this is going to be the case, making the case for it.
Got it.
So
So just to add something very important to this context. So there's a very strange journey that we got to this charger, right? It was not an easy. It's not an easy path. Like you said, body against the wall every day. But when we went and explored to deploy this in different regions, we went to US, we went to Europe, we went to Singapore, different parts of Asia. Electricity is the same everywhere, but regulations change from country to country, region to region, electricity board to electricity board, which means that the same law that is in California might not apply in Nevada. They might have different regulations because of, Similarly, same set of rules that apply in somewhere in Karnataka might not apply in Maharashtra. So
Yeah.
you need different boards. So we learned the hard way that even though the end goal is the same, we need to work in an area where it is very easy for people or our ecosystem players and ecosystem by itself to deploy without hassle of regulation and all of these difficult permissions.
Correct.
So this device is already licensed. We've already gotten this licensed for US and
Oh,
Europe
Wow.
Wow.
and all of the global south. Which
Who
means
was
that
the body like that give you the license?
the competent authority in each country
Okay.
gives the license. So it can be like it can be sold openly on. You can sell this on Amazon now if you want, and people can just buy it, call an electrician, have it installed in their house. It will take less than 2 hours to get running, and then start making money. And if they have a different type of car, the only thing they need to do is maybe add an adapter here that will fit to that particular charge point. But other than that, everything stays the same. And what's also very interesting about this, which is again a big shout out to our partners DeFi guys, very big shout out to them, is this energy module that's inside the whole module is open sourced, which means that we're releasing this
Oh, cool.
for anyone.
Wow.
Which means that if there are partners that we're working with in, let's say again somewhere in South America, we don't have to export this. They can just take this, print it. They can manufacture the board. They can just manufacture everything locally, and deploy. And if someone wants to improve it, they can still improve it. So if they want to change something for making it better for local regulations, they can.
Okay.
So in the true spirit of decentralization, this is there, and this has This has all the built-in tech for the tokenization, the on-chain rewards, even the DID messaging. Everything is built into it.
Got it. So maybe just in a couple of sentences, like what is DeCharge's role and DeFi's role in this device, and maybe like outside of that as well. And for the non-nerds, right? Like us, how would you describe that?
Yeah. So I think openness, open source is one thing, but the ethos is to create a modular setup, right? I think that was our common goal. They wanted to be the software leader in the space, and we want to be like the EV ecosystem. So that kind of fit. How do we create a modular set, right? If somebody wants to create an improvement on top of it, they can. So the one layer is how do we create a modular setup where anyone can kind of make an improvement on top of it, or even an extension around it, or create an economy around it. So our role is to create this, the first step, to make the modular setup happen in collaboration with them. So that's how it kind of came to begin. Of course, more details we can dive in the next sections too.
Yeah, for sure.
Awesome.
So I think.
Wait, is this the first time you guys are showing this?
Yeah, the first
anywhere?
time.
Yeah.
First
Oh,
time.
Guys,
crazy.
you've seen it here first.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
this is the future of EV charging.
When you guys going to release this?
So season 1 is starting. Like season 1. So this is the brilliantness of the DeFi team, right? We were like, can we do it in Q1? Is it fine? They're like, Q1? No, it's very late. Let's start December. Start December. Ship out in Jan. Let users have it because they will want it. So at least to stress test the ecosystem, we'll start with at least the APAC region, maybe 2,000 devices. But the season 1 concept the actual season 1 for this device is going to be like 10,000 devices. Which is that's how it's going to do it.
So coming real soon.
Yeah.
Very
Amazing.
soon. Very soon.
Yeah. Okay, I'm on the wait list. I don't know about you guys.
Get on the wait list fast.
Yeah.
Amazing.
So
Yeah, but as we go along the way, I'm pretty sure that us and DeFi, we'll find more teams like us who are equally fired up
Motivated
about
to-
this particular problem statement.
for sure.
Yeah.
Amazing.
For sure.
Yep.
Amazing.
And if there's anyone listening who wants to contribute, be a part of this, feel free to reach out.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
So
You
you
should.
can DM the DGen Dr. Prakash or Mohan. Mohan's not too DGen, but that's fine. No, but I think this has been a really, really cool conversation, guys.
Yeah.
I learned so much right from the unit economics of devices and how grids factor into that to like your vision at like a crazy planetary level, which is like easier said than done, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And also it's like detailing the vision to like each specific aspect, which I really enjoyed learning from you guys.
Thanks.
And of course early alpha, which everybody likes.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think like, it's been a great conversation. Thank you so much for doing this, and I'm sure like there's going to be many more as we go along into the next quarter, year, and so
For
on and so
sure.
forth.
Thank you so much,
For sure.
guys.
Thanks for having us, both of you, for
Yeah.
the amazing moderation. Really
Yeah.
enjoyed the conversation.
Love it.
Thank you guys.
Thanks.
Thank you.
All right.
Okay, Ahan, go
Amazing.
take a selfie.